On today's Ralston Hockey Exclusive, I am joined by 2008 third round, 82nd overall pick by the New Jersey Devils, 2008 and 9 and 2009-10 on Ontario Hockey League and Memorial Cup champion. In that 2009-10 playoff run, he led the postseason with 20 goals in 19 games and was awarded the Wayne Gretzky 99 Award for MVP of the playoffs. He played for Team Canada in the 2009-10 World Juniors, where he won silver and was awarded Best Faceoff Man of the tournament. 2011-12, he was named to the NHL All-Rookie team, played for Team Canada in the 2019 World Championships. A big NASCAR guy, loves to play the old school Modern Warfare 2 video game. He scored some big goals in his career, used one of the biggest paddles as a blade that I've ever seen. Currently playing for the Anaheim Ducks and one of my old teammates, Adam Rico Henrique.
What's happening?
Going on, man?
Not too much, man. Just we're out in California still. Just kind of riding things out right now.
How was that quarantine going? Obviously, you've got a nice beard going. Not too familiar seeing you with that, but it looks good.
No, you know what? I've never had a beard like this, let alone this has been going for a couple months.
Grow a beard like that.
No, it's put some time and effort, and it's nice that people haven't had to see the growing pains of it.
How long have you been at that?
Couple months. I started for a good while before we had the pause. I think I got hot for a bit, so I just said, "Hey, let's keep it." And then I figured in quarantine, I may as well try and grow the beard as long as I can.
Speaking of that, how's it been going? Have you, obviously, there's some restrictions. People aren't really allowed out. You've been able to, stay active, get some workouts in or whatnot?
Yeah, everything, down here, I'm in a spot where I'm on the canal, so you can kind of get out on the water a little bit, which helps just getting outside. Other than that, kind of just, staying in unless we need to go out to get groceries, which you try and limit. As far as staying active, I had enough small equipment here to kind of do what I need to do early on. As we kind of, started getting a couple weeks into things, grabbed a bike from the team. So I have that here. I have my trainer set up a program for me. So we've been in touch a lot. So it kind of gave a chance just to, not knowing how long we were going to be stuck, kind of gave a chance to let the body settle down, let any small injuries heal up and try to just get back to work, the best that we can right now.
Right. You mentioned you have a bike. Dallas Eakins is your coach. I played for him for, the better part of 3 or 4 years. A guy who's, puts a big emphasis on fitness and, staying in good shape. He was always on the bike, and, it's kind of one of those, you see your coach doing it, guys kind of fall in line, but is he still having you guys on the bike, or is he still up to that?
Yeah, he keeps in touch. I think he reached out to all the players, either through call or text message, and just,
right.
Make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. Make sure we're all, staying in shape, or at least to a point where if this thing does, calm down and we're able to kind of get back to work, that, we're at a level that, within a week or so, that we can get right back to kind of where we were before the pause.
Okay. Well, let's get into, kind of your path and your growing up playing. Where exactly did you grow up, and, your youth hockey experience?
Yeah, well, I grew up Burford, Ontario. Beautiful place. You should come visit sometime. But small town. Grew up on the farm. So I was lucky enough to do the farming work every summer, which was no fun. Probably motivated me to be a better hockey player. Grew up, I played AAA in Brantford for the 99ers in the Alliance. Since I was 6 or 7 years old, I was fortunate to come through there and develop as a pretty good all-around player. And really, a couple of years before the draft, I didn't even really know where you go play after.
Right.
I was just growing up playing with my buddies around. And then once things kind of started, I guess, getting serious, had an agent reach out to the family, which we all had no clue what that meant.
Right.
It was pretty funny. And then it kind of just went from there. I still stay in touch with some of the guys that I played with when we were younger, which is always fun to catch up with, but certainly enjoyed my time, playing in Brantford growing up.
At that time, today training has changed so much, the access the kids have. Were you going to summer camps? Were you doing select teams? Were you doing extra training, having a power skating coach or a skill coach? Or was it just, you had your 2 or 3 practices, you were shooting out in the driveway, and it was just, basic growing up?
Yeah, it's certainly not like it is today. Training certainly wasn't at a point it is now, and it wasn't there. The emphasis certainly wasn't on that aspect of the game when we were young. I remember when we first started kind of getting into that, one of the moms on the team was a trainer at a local gym. So that's literally how we started getting into the fitness side of things. You go there, we'd all do a spin class together, do some small weightlifting. And that would kind of be in season just because you only practice, once or twice a week and play. But as far as the off season, when I was younger, I went to a few camps, probably mainly just because my parents,
wanted you
had friends that, what's that?
Wanted you out of the house?
Probably wanted me out of the house, but probably just because their friends were taking their kids. And
right.
I wasn't a big camp kid. I didn't like it. I didn't like going. I didn't enjoy it all the time. And then as far as summer teams, if I wanted to play, I played. If I didn't want to play, I didn't play. There was a good local program in Brantford that, we would have some pretty good teams to go and compete in tournaments. But my parents were pretty good. If I didn't want to play, I didn't play.
Right.
And I played other sports. I played soccer every summer with just my buddies. Always had something else going on. And, those tournaments, we felt that they were always there. There was always plenty of them that if I wanted to play, you could play.
Right.
So it wasn't a big, I was a big just kind of athlete, played a little bit of just slow pitch soccer, played other sports to, just to keep me into it.
Yeah, for sure. So, you come up through your youth programs and you end up, going to the OHL draft. Now, before you were selected, did you ever have any interest in, taking the college route?
Yeah, we looked into it a little bit. And again, I guess at the time, that's kind of when your, family advisor,
Yep.
Helps along with that. We, obviously going the school route, you had to make sure your grades were good. Make sure you had the right testing or taking the SAT. So we kind of looked into doing all of that. It never got to a point where, we visited schools or really looked into it before the OHL route kind of took over. So it kind of, once the OHL route started gaining interest, I guess, you start getting letters in the mail from all these teams. You start getting phone calls from different teams. It kind of took off. And when we realized, I may be drafted fairly high, that it was a good opportunity. I remember Windsor was a team that was very interested in Warren Reichel, came to the house to visit us. And again, that was a new experience for us. We had no clue, what to expect. They're coming out to our small town, out to our farm. But that was kind of the start of things.
Yeah.
Everything kind of took off after that.
So you get selected by the Spits. You played for them for 4 years, winning 2 OHL championships, 2 Memorial Cups. Talk about basically almost the process or development that, your birth year, the 90 birth year, went through. I believe, your first season, you guys, were a young team, didn't do too well. And then, basically every year got better, and it led to some great success, some great teammates, and, the coaching staff that, we had there. Was Boogie there all 4 years for you?
Yeah, he was. So when I was drafted, Warren, Bob, and Peter Dobrich bought the team. So everybody was kind of coming in at the same time with our group, that 90 group that you talked about. So it was all kind of a learning process for all of us. And I think that in the end really helped bring everybody together and kind of work towards that common goal of winning.
Right.
That first year we were terrible. I remember we played London every night and lose 7-8-1, 8-2. But with Boogie as a coach and DJ Smith was there, Bill Bowler was an assistant that year. We learning from guys that have made it and played in the NHL was huge. And they put into us that, if we're going to be a bad team, we're going to be the hardest working team. And I think that just created a foundation for us and for our group moving forward. And even that year too, because we had so many rookies, we all got to play a ton of minutes, which is huge. You don't always get that coming in your rookie season. So again, that was another area where probably benefited us moving forward.
You talk about the coaching staff that, we had when we were there. Do you still keep in touch at all? Or, I'm sure when you play against them, you had a bit, but with Boogie and, DJ?
Yeah, still kind of any chance you get, really. Still stay in touch with them when you can, whether you see them in the off season or when we're playing against them. You always take a glance over, and it's usually kind of a laugh or something.
Right.
Depending on who we're playing, but it's great to see everybody doing well and moving up the ranks coaching wise.
So that the first year that you guys won the Memorial Cup was the 2008-2009 season. Unfortunately during that, something tragic happened with, Mickey Renaud, who was the captain of the Spits at that time, from Windsor. He passed away. Talk about, as that went on, you're, 17, 18 years old, and basically how the team, the staff, the city, basically tried to support and, gather around each other during that, and, how hard that was on, a young team and, somebody at your age.
Yeah, that was extremely hard. A guy coming in that was the leader of our group, on and off the ice, took a lot of us younger guys under his wing, and was a guy that I think we all got to learn from and kind of watch his development. And he certainly led the way for us on the ice as well. He was a tough guy to play against, big power forward that did everything well.
Right.
So to go through that was nobody had ever gone through something like that. So it was extremely hard, to see a friend and, a hometown kid, obviously pass away. And then how do you come out of that on the other end of it? Really, it was, some time passes and you have to get back to, playing. And the city was going through a tough time around that as well. You could see everybody really come together, the team, the support staff around the team, and then the city and the fans as well, which certainly helped us kind of move forward from it. It was certainly tough, and certainly a guy that I still think about quite often today, trying to model myself, after his work ethic and how he, handled himself off the ice as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember I wasn't there for that year. I came the following year, and I think one of my first visits I ever had coming to Windsor, I mean, within the first 5 minutes, his name was brought up, the importance of him as a person, the character that he had, that you mentioned, his work ethic, and, something that's, constantly reminded in Windsor and just the hockey community in that area. So you guys go on winning the Mem Cup that year, come back the following year in 09-10, go back-to-back at the Memorial Cup. That was a year I'll never forget it. You scored every game, I'm pretty sure. That was a pretty special run in the sense of I believe we swept the first 2 rounds, and then we ran into Kitchener in the 3rd round, and we went down 0-3. And we ended up coming back, winning in Game 7, swept the OHL, and then went to the Mem Cup and swept that as well. I mean, that team was, had so many guys that were drafted, went on to have careers. I mean, it was – I talked about it with Fowler the other day. It was you, Halsey, Cassian, Ellie, and Cam on the power play, and I just got to sit there and watch and be a part of it. But so you move on from Windsor in the OHL. You're drafted to New Jersey, and you start making that transition to pro. Talk about your first year, your NHL, AHL, and trying to find somewhat of that consistency to make the jump to be a full NHL player.
Yeah, so after that, coming into that first, I guess, pro training camp, I was out of shape. Didn't have a great summer after we finished in Windsor. And so I go through training camp, was okay. I don't think mentally myself was like expecting to make the team, or I just we'll go down to Albany, play the year, and then go from there kind of thing. Right. So Harry Young, another guy from Windsor, our captain, was drafted and was coming along with me, which certainly helped. I think both of us kind of transitioned into pro level hockey, with both of us had no clue what to expect. So right. We get sent down to Albany. We got to get like American credit cards, find a place to rent, all this stuff. We
have no idea what you're doing.
No clue what we're doing. I remember we find like a pamphlet in the hotel lobby of like rental places. So we start driving around and looking, and we saw some absolute dumps. And we're like, Jesus, what do we do here? So luckily enough, we found a good spot to live. And then the lady there, she's like, well, okay, you got to pay, first month's rent, security deposit, all this. And we're like, how are we going to pay all this? We got nothing. So we go to the bank. We both take out like a loan on our credit cards for the first month, just so we can get an apartment and move in. But after that, we settled in. Again, our team there wasn't very good, but I, got myself back into shape, got myself where I needed to be. And then it was just a matter of trying to find that consistency in the game, at the next level. And you can tell right away that, there's so many good players in the league that you got to be on it every single night. And then you're just waiting for that call, hoping to get called up to go play. So go through the year, end up having a good year, 25 goals, 50 points, I think. And really, put me in a position personally to go up and just get a chance to play. I played my first NHL game at the end of that season. It was the last one of the year for the Devils at the time. But, that just getting that one game in really gave me the motivation to get myself into shape and push me through that entire summer.
You talked about consistency, and I think, from my own experience, your experience, as you make that transition to pro, but at all levels of the game, I feel like that's the one word that's thrown around a lot by coaches is, be consistent, finding that consistency. Was that something that you had to develop? You had to learn how to, do at that level? You did it in your youth hockey, then you did it in the OHL, and then you started to do it in the AHL. Was that something that you learned just by experience, or was that something that you had to constantly remind yourself of?
It's a constant reminder. I think that's probably the biggest thing most players would struggle with is being good every single night or being great. You can certainly, everybody has nights off, but your night off can't be a terrible game. It has to be a good game still. You have to bring something to the table. So trying to find that at each level is different. There's steps you have to take to get better. I remember, coming in the OHL and playing a first, like, holy, these guys are fast. These guys are big. And then, then you adjust to that, and then you go to the American League, and it's the same thing. These guys are bigger, faster. You're playing against men. So you have to find your way through that and find in your game how to be consistent every single night. In the American League, you're playing 3-3 or three games in 2.5 days, traveling on the bus in between. So, that's even harder. Getting off that bus, taking your bag off, it's still wet, it's cold. And you've slept for a few hours on the bus and you got to go play a game. You're like, how are you supposed to do this? But you have to be able to find that consistency, whether that's, mentally and obviously physically as well. But I think adjusting to that and, can really take any player's game, no matter if you're a goal scorer or, a penalty kill guy or whatever your role is on the team, can take your game to the next level. And that's what I think everybody, at that next level is looking for.
You just touched on that, finding your role on the team, that 2011-12 year, a special year for you guys. You make the cup run. You came out of juniors as, an unbelievable two-way player, but definitely a scorer, offensively gifted. When you made that transition to, first full NHL season, was your role changed? I mean, did you think to yourself, if I want to stick here, I got to obviously do whatever it takes, but I might not be, getting the opportunity to be on the power play or, be on the first line. If you're on the third line, I got to win face off. I got to finish checks. I mean, was that something that you thought of?
Yeah, it was, again, so going in, first off, making sure that I was physically ready to make that jump, that show them that I was in shape and improve from the year prior. So I did that. Then going in, so going into training camp, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hopefully make the team here, make the team out of camp. I play the first couple of games. Then I get sent down for a weekend.
Right.
So Travis Zajac was already out. He tore his Achilles in the end of the summer. So he was going to be out most of the year. So there's another centerman. So, early in the season, another guy goes down with an injury, broken collarbone. So now there's another spot. So I get called back up, meet the team on the road. I remember going on the plane for the first time. Couldn't believe it. I walk on there, the stewardess brings me like a hot towel. I sit down, we're traveling with Air Canada. I look over at the guy next to me. It was Brad Mills at the time. And I'm like, is this what it's like every time here? He's like, oh yeah.
Couple
options. Yeah, I was blown away. I was like, this. I'm like, wow. You know, whatever your motivation is to get yourself to the next level, you know, you have to draw upon that. So I go out on a week road trip, play pretty well, come home. I forget where we were in the season, but you know, there's always that group of guys at the end of practice that doesn't play a ton. It's always bag skating. It's always working. So I'm out there, a young guy, you know, jumping in with them. And I can remember, you know, thinking to myself, you know, 'cause I was up and down the lineup kind of at the time, trying to figure out where I guess I would fit in. And then kind of tell myself, like, okay, whatever these guys ask me to do any day, you do it. And because this is where you want to be. This is where, you know, I'm going to make the jump, whether I'm playing on the first line or playing on the fourth line 5 minutes a night. You know, you got to do what you're asked to do. And I can remember figuring out at the time how much money I would make each day. And I'm not even kidding you. I remember thinking about it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's pretty good for just, you know, playing 5 minutes a night, coming out here, bag skating and going through, you know, workout. You know, so I kind of just found any sort of motivation I could to push myself to make the team. And then Pete DeBoer was the coach at the time. He ends up putting me with Zach Parise and Ilya Kovalchuk on a line. So, and this was, we go through the whole, like, 3-4 days of practice, didn't practice with them once, then come in for morning skate, and I'm on their line. I'm like, I just like,
okay. Make a mistake on the board.
I'm like, okay, just give these guys the puck and drive the net.
Right.
You know, I'm like, kick the puck out wide and drive the net. You know, do all the little things and see what happens. And I was, you know, fortunately, we kind of ended up getting some chemistry, and I played with those guys most of the year, which was certainly a lot of fun.
You know, walking into that locker room, was there, you know, a guy or two guys, and, you know, maybe some of the names that you said, but were, you know, very influential on, you know, your success that you've had, but especially when you were starting out as a younger player that, you know, you looked up to, or, you know, idolized almost in a sense?
Yeah, that was such a veteran team. So honestly, I kept my mouth shut in there, and I just kind of listened, and, you know, I was like a sponge trying to take in anything you can get from these guys. You know, playing with Zach and Covey, Patty Elias was there, Marty Brodeurs in net, Hedberg was our backup goalie, Dana Zubris is there, David Clarkson was another guy that certainly helped me out a lot when I was there, just making me feel comfortable. You know, within the group, when you're young and you have such a veteran team like that, you know, you're kind of not walking on eggshells a little bit, but you're always kind of aware of, you know, all these guys around you. And then, you know, you have to realize these are your teammates, you know, these are just the guys, and they were all in my spot at one point too. So I sat beside Zach in the locker room. So he was a guy to try to model myself after. You know, he's so relentless on the puck, the way he plays the game. He does everything so well, a lot of the little details. So there were a lot of guys that I could just, you know, look at and try and learn from just by watching them.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, so important to have that in the locker room, especially as a younger guy, you know, trying to find his way, and, you know, having people like that kind of taking you under their wing. You know, in that season, you guys ended up going to the Stanley Cup Finals. But previous to that, you guys played, you know, the Rangers, and, you know, maybe one of your most memorable goals that you had in the overtime. You know, talk about that a little bit, that whole experience of a cup run, but obviously, you know, winning that goal. I can remember watching that, texting you, couldn't believe it happened. And, you know, just 2 years prior to that, you know, we're sitting around at Harold Young's place with video games, you know, laughing, just having a good time, just being, you know, teenagers. And now you're on the biggest stage in the world playing against the Rangers. You know, talk about that.
Yeah, it was, you know, really, we finished 6th in the conference that year. but we got hot going into playoffs. I think we won 5 or 6 in a row. But I don't think anybody was really talking about us as a team. So we get in, we get through Florida in 7. Then we move on to Philadelphia. Philly had a great team. Eric Wellwood was on the team at the time too, and we ended up beating them in 5 games. So with that certainly helped us just get a little bit of rest going into the Rangers series. And Devils Rangers was such a big rivalry for so many years.
Right.
One of our games earlier in the season was probably the greatest start to a game that I've ever been a part of. There's 3 fights on the opening face-off. And the crowd was electric. Coaches were yelling at each other. Everybody's chirping each other. That's a game that I'll never forget being a part of. And then, so to play them going into the playoffs in the 3rd round, nobody expected us to be there. You could tell just in the city, the tensions were high. Everybody was plugged in. Even fans traveling back and forth between games. There's always stuff going on. You always hear different stories. But to get in and then to have that impact on the series and within the rivalry, so many Devils fans still message me today and say they're like, "Thank you for scoring that goal," and they never forget where they were. Still get so many nice messages about the goal. And my parents were actually kind of flying in and out for games throughout the playoffs when we were at home. So they'd fly in the morning, watch the game, spend the night, fly back home the next day. So luckily enough, they flew in for that game in the morning, make it, and they were sitting in the corner I ended up celebrating it. So,
wow.
There's so much that kind of goes along with the goal. You're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. My parents are there. My first year in the league, there's so much that made it that special. And it's still certainly nice to just get messages from Devils fans today about it.
For sure. You guys go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Unfortunately, you run into LA Kings, who are, in their dynasty those years. One thing that, with Brian Ralston at the Academy, he won the Stanley Cup with the Devils in 94 and 5, and that was also his first year basically in the league. Is that something that you think about? You were younger at that time, getting that opportunity and, realizing, hey, maybe this is something that's just going to happen, every couple of years. We're going to go to the finals because you don't know anything else. Does it almost make you appreciate it that much more looking back on it and, where you are now in your career, how bad you want to get back to that?
It does. You think, okay, we'll be back next year.
Right.
We run into LA. LA finished 8th that year.
Yep.
So they just get into the playoffs and then they get hot and they had such a deep team. The first 2 games in that series go to overtime. It could be one of those things you just run into a team that's destined to win.
Right.
So, to get that close that early in your career, you think, okay, this is going to happen every year. The team, why is anybody going to leave the team when we're this good?
Right.
And then, fast forward a little bit, then the following season, we're locked out for the first half till Christmas or whenever it was. Then as a young guy, you start realizing, okay, guys' contracts are up, guys are getting older, we have a veteran team, some guys are retiring, some guys are moving on here to different spots. They didn't re-sign Zach. He goes to Minnesota. Covey leaves. Clarkson leaves for Toronto. So many guys from that team within a year or 2 were gone or retired or moved on somewhere else. So now as an organization, we're really, you're almost trying to just put Band-Aids on things for a little while. And you realize it doesn't work and it just kind of drags on year after year after year. So you really do appreciate when you're there and have an opportunity to win. You never know when you'll be back.
Right.
And I think a lot of guys probably as their careers go on realize that you only have so many opportunities. So, hopefully I can get back there at some point sooner rather than later.
Right. So, you spent the better part of 8 or 9 years with the Devils, great relationships, teammates, memories there. And then, if I'm not mistaken, this was your first trade to LA, or sorry, to Anaheim. Going through that process, how was that for you? I mean, I'm sure it's always a whirlwind when you're traded anywhere. There's a bunch of unknown. You're going into a new locker room, new organization. But, for you, was this something that, maybe you saw coming a little bit, or, how was that transition?
So ended up great. So you go back, Lou moves on.
Yep.
New GM. So the summer before the trade, new GM, new coach, you always want to make a great first impression. I kind of thought to myself, I knew kind of what the team needed in the off season. And I don't think they, fulfilled that need in the off season in another way. So I thought, okay, well, of the guys who were there, I'm one of the only Lou guys
right
that was still there. There was 3 of us, and the other 2 guys, Travis Zajac and Anthony Green, both have full no move clauses. So, okay, there's a chance here this season I might get traded. And, I knew the team needed a defenseman, and kind of just looking at it from the, going in, that I felt that I was certainly probably one of the only, pieces with value at the time. That was, a Lou guy from before. And, whether or not that stuff kind of plays into it, you never really know. But so I thought, okay, well, it'll probably be around trade deadline. I'll probably have some idea by then, if I'll be traded, so you can kind of prepare for it mentally, right? Mm-hmm. I've never been traded before, not in junior, not in my pro time at all. I had built such a great relationship with the fans there. I thought, why wouldn't I play the rest of my career here? Was kind of the, idea, I guess, in the back of my head. There was Patrick Elias, Marty, those guys have all, played their entire careers there. That'd be awesome to be able to be one of those guys. So fast forward, we're only a couple months into the season, end of November. The night before, I had a charity party for Movember, and it was at my buddy's bar. It was a ton of fun. We put a lot of work into it for the month. The ladies in the front office, everybody in the organization put a lot of work into it. We had a blast, raised a lot of money for a good cause. The next morning, I'm driving to the rink.
See ya.
Get a phone call. And you know what? I was by myself, actually. Usually I would have carpooled with 1 or 2 other guys. So answer the call. It's Ray. He's like, oh, where are you? I'm like, I'm literally down the street from the rink. He's like, pull over. Like, what the hell is this? He's like, I traded you.
Did you know right away when he said, pull over, you saw his phone, pop up, his phone number?
You know what? Right away, I didn't even really think about it because, we're still a ways away from trade deadline. I'm like,
right.
So I'm like, what the hell does he want?
Yep.
So answer the phone, traded you. So he starts talking, he's going on. I'm like speechless. I don't even know what to say. So if he tells me it's Anaheim, had obviously great things to say about Anaheim, and I had no clue what I was coming into.
Yeah.
So anyways, I go to the rink, go in, I talk to the coaches, say goodbye to the guys, which is brutal.
Yeah.
You're guys that I played with for a long time, young guy, everybody there you say goodbye to. Go home. I called home, told everybody, so that I'm getting messages left and right on like what's going on, what happened, blah, blah. And I'm trying to pack, and I got to be on a flight in a few hours to Columbus. So, I'm like, what do I pack? What am I doing? Like, so I ended up meeting the team in Columbus. So the biggest thing through the trade for me was it came early in the season. So it was a shock. I was surprised or kind of caught off guard by it. But looking back on it, the trade made sense for both sides at the time. Anaheim had a ton of injuries up front, needed a centerman. And then even coming in, fly to Columbus, Anaheim, half the team is injured. So half the team's not even on the road with them. So I didn't even get to meet, Getzy or Kess or there were like 3 or 4 other guys that were all hurting back home. So, settled in really well with the team, kind of found my role, once everybody was back and healthy, which took a while, but
right.
They had such a veteran group that it was a fun group to come in and be a part of.
You come into that team, been there for, the better part of 2.5 years. You're now a veteran at that point. You've been in the league a while. You've got some games underneath your belt. You're a proven player. You come into that locker room. How does your mindset change from, your first year entering to, getting traded to basically entering a new team, trying to find your role within maybe the systems of how, it'll help, or maybe it doesn't, necessarily, fit your role or your game, or it does. Is there a big difference from, your first year to where you were when you got traded in the sense of your role on the team and figuring that out?
As far as like my role, I guess, so I come in after the trade, we're a veteran team. So,
right.
I'm playing third line center and find some good chemistry, and we go on a run. And then, following that, we lose a lot of guys. Team starts kind of going through a transition period where we're getting younger. So, veteran guys are being traded out or bought out, or now we're bringing in all these young guys, and we're kind of back, what I had gone through in Jersey. So, but now I'm the veteran guy. I'm the guy that I guess is looked upon to lead the way. So for me, being in shape is always, number one coming into the season, showing everybody that show the young guys that, maybe I'm going to be the best here, or, lead by example is kind of always the thing that, I've gone by. I'm not the most vocal guy in the room. So for me, I always try to lead by example, whether that's, off the ice, always being in the gym, doing something, just being physically ready in training camp, and then on the ice, I kind of try to let my play, do the talking for me. And kind of as I come along, you learn that, you do have to speak up in the room, or now I'm on the other side of things where, I can grab guys' attention when I say something or I speak up, and, you kind of try and drag everybody into the fight with you. It's a big thing with Dallas. Is it all about, drag our teammates, into the fight. And Getsy's always a guy that, he's been around for a long time. He's won. He's been on, a lot of great teams. And, so coming in, there's another guy that I can learn from. Like, how do I lead? How do I lead like him? Or, how does he lead? And how can I put that into my game, off the ice and on the ice? So everybody leads, in different ways. But even as, I'm becoming a veteran player, I can still learn and expand and grow myself as a person and a player.
With coming into a locker room like that, with guys like Getzlaf and, Perry, and, these guys are only, a handful of years older than you, but were they guys when you were younger, that you looked up to in a sense?
Yeah.
They were, I know Perry, played for London, but, or guys like that, maybe when you're in juniors and they're young guys in the NHL and you're watching, you played with or against these guys that you're like, wow, now it's all kind of come full circle. I'm, on the same team or locker room, and not just with the Ducks, but, with New Jersey as well.
Yeah, like those. I mean, getting to play with Marty Brodeur right away was pretty crazy. That's a guy that, he's the greatest goalie to ever play.
Right.
And then to be able to be his teammate, and then even Covey and Zach and Patty Eliash, Clark, like all these guys that I get to play with my rookie year. I guess when you're first there and walk into that locker room, you're kind of like, well, you're a little like starstruck. You're like,
Right.
wow, like I'm here with these guys now.
Yeah.
Like and then you kind of go through your career and you play with different guys, and then coming to Anaheim to play with Getzey and Pears, who are, talked about for years as a duo, one of the greatest duos ever to play together. They win the cup, when they're younger in their career. Pears scores 50 one year, wins the Hart. Even Kess, I come in, I sit next to Kess, and this guy has been a leader and took in Vancouver for so long, and then comes to Anaheim, and Anaheim is always in the mix to win the cup every single year. Even Kevin Bieksa, there's so many guys on those veteran teams that do well. It was pretty cool to be able to be a part of it and be able to say I played with these guys at one point or another.
I can, I was fortunate enough. I went to a Ducks training camp, and I'll never forget. And I don't know if he still does it, but Getzlaf the entire training camp didn't have tape on his blade.
Yeah.
Practice without tape on his blade, and I knew Kessler. Fortunately, he helped me a lot, and I was like, why is he doing that? He goes, it makes him have to concentrate harder and focus more on holding on to the puck. And I think I did that one summer, like by myself on the and I might as well have just thrown my stick in the stands because I couldn't even hold the puck.
Yeah, so he still does it. He doesn't use tape in practice. The blade is more of like a sandpaper feel to it.
Right.
But still, it makes no sense to me. Like, I understand the concept of it. You got to really dial it in and helps him work on his hands and the feel. But like, I've tried it with no tape on. You may as well not even be a blade on the ice.
It's so true. So you're, as you've talked about, your in-season and post or off-season training, you've developed that, and it's really became a big part of you as a hockey player. I'm interested in hearing about your basically off-season, but also during the season, the on-ice training that you do outside of just the organized practices. When you're out there, you got half hour, an hour before or after practice. The type of things that you're really working on that has made you the consistent player. As far as shooting the puck or where you're shooting, the patterns that you're doing. Are you I want to shoot top left or low blocker 3 times, and I'm going to move to high glove, or are you spending I'm going to shoot 50 pucks in the same spot until I feel comfortable and then move on?
So for me, the off-season training is, I've learned obviously that it's so important that it can,
right.
It can push you to another level on the ice. And it took me a bit to learn that. For me, I've always struggled, say cardio wise, terrible runner, could never run. Not that, and that's what, when we were younger, that was what it was. You ran. Now training has come a long way. Everybody's on the bike. Everybody's, finding different ways to train and get stronger. So that was an area for me that I really had to work at, and it took a long time, and I would struggle through it. I used to train in the summertime in Windsor with Joe Garland.
Used to run that hill. That was fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that was an area where, some guys just have, and some guys can run. Yep. And that would piss me off more than anything, because like, I feel like I'm breathing through a straw trying to run a lap around the lake there.
Exactly.
And, But I knew that if I wanted to make it and change my game, and that was where I had to work, and I had to struggle through that. So, now every summer I really try to dial that in and make sure that I'm, doing extra. I'm staying on top of it, and then I'm ready to go, because I know when I'm on the ice, my skating is kind of what drives me, really.
Right.
That's what helps me be consistent on a nightly basis. So if I don't have that in the off season, or and I don't prepare to that level, then my skating is going to get worse, and then I'm going to be a worse player, because I'm going to feel that I'm a step or two behind. So then automatically my decision making is slowed, or I'm not in the right position where I should be, to make those correct decisions. You're always like half a step behind. And now at this level, half a step may as well be a mile,
right.
And so in season, I guess my footwork and my, making sure that my legs are the driver for me. So, I do a lot now with, my hips, my lower back, making sure that I'm loose, and, that I'm not too tight to take away from those things.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, when I was in Jersey, it's kind of those first three steps for me. It's where I always kind of go back to that, those first three steps where I want to go. Because for me, I guess I'm not, now kids are so skilled. I've never really considered myself a skilled player, but I'm able to think the game. And I think that's where, along with my legs and the way I can think the game and anticipate, where I have to be, or where the puck's going, or where the play's going, that's what helps separate me. I can put myself in the right position of where the puck is going to be, not where it is,
right,
but where it's going to be. So I can put myself in a high danger area where that play or that puck will most likely come, to give me an opportunity either just to be the first one on the puck, or to get a chance scoring or defending.
Do you think, by the sounds of what you're saying, we're almost referring to like your hockey IQ. Do you think that's something that can be taught, or is that something that you learn over time and, just being on the ice and playing games, or, just playing shinny hockey 3-on-3 with some buddies, and just, seeing the creativity side of the game and, just being around it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Like for me, I think I've always had that.
Yep.
Where, some players might not have that, but they might be way more skilled than me and creative than me, and can play the game that way. But for me, I always love having, a system
right
in place. So I know where everybody on the ice is going to be, or should be at all times. And then that helps me, or eases my decision-making, I guess. Or, that hockey IQ, you're able to read the game, read the plays, but, where other guys might be more creative than me, they might be able to, create more with the puck, or, not really necessarily take chances. But for me, being able to think the game has always helped me be consistent. Or if my legs are not feeling it one night, that thinking the game and being able to think ahead helps me still be effective.
Wrapping it up here, got a couple questions. I reached out and had some people respond that were, interested, and a couple quick hits for you. So, I guess my question one, would Lou approve of your beard right now?
No, it's not a chance I would have this beard if I was playing for Lou still. I used to get, honestly, I've never been able to, like, when I was younger, I could never really grow a great beard. I could grow a great mustache. That's about it.
Yep.
But it'd be like 2 days and I'd go into the rink and I'd be like a little nervous, I'm like,
Like a
oh,
little stubble.
I got to shave. Just
Like,
yeah.
would this fly?
No, you'd have to shave. Yeah.
All right. So do you prefer California or New Jersey weather?
Ooh. California weather.
Yeah.
I do miss the snow sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's nice during the season to go on a road trip with some snow, but it's nice coming back to the warm weather.
We'll go. We'll do New Jersey and the Ducks, but who's the funniest guy in the locker room when both teams?
Ryan Carter was pretty funny in New Jersey. He was a pretty good teammate. Here it had to be Kevin Bieksa. Him and Kess were kind of a 1-2 punch here, but Juice was I think Juice would take that.
They had some serious history. With the Ducks, which teammate would you least want to be quarantined with?
Ooh. I don't know. What? Maybe Michael Del Zotto. I don't know. We'd be having too many DJ parties here if he was. It'd be fun, though, I'm sure.
Do you miss playing for the Devils?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, I loved it there. I loved my time there. Building the relationship with the fans, a lot of great teammates. I love the area. So certainly do miss it at times, but I love it out in Anaheim as well.
Who was your favorite NHL player growing up, or a player that you idolized?
Steve Yzerman was my favorite. I've gotten the chance to meet him a few times, which was pretty cool. And then, so he was a guy that I was kind of the right age there where you really get into hockey when Detroit started winning all their cups. So certainly a lot of fun to watch.
This one's how do you like working with Getzlaf? But I want to make that. How great of a leader is he for yourself and your team? He's great.
He buys into everything. He's a guy that, like I said before, really drags us into the fight. I think he's a guy that demands respect in the locker room, just simply because the player that he's always been. So I think he's a tremendous leader for our young guys and even guys, my age that have been around for a bit. He's a guy that I think everybody in our locker room certainly looks to lead the way.
Do you prefer playing center or left wing if you had a choice?
Center. Playing left wing is like having the night off. Playing anywhere, I guess. There's not much thinking out there. Me and Getz always joked about.
You can say that about defensemen too.
I played a little left wing with Getsy this year, so we'd always joke about that. I'd just be getting the night off.
If you had to pick one, favorite moment as a Devil?
Scoring that overtime winner. Yeah, I don't think anything really beats that.
Yeah. How does it feel being 30?
Oh. You know what? I remember coming into that my first year, and some of the guys, some of the veteran guys, they're like, "Oh, it goes quick," and I'm like, "Okay," and now I'm here, and I'm like, I'm telling young guys, I'm like, it goes quick.
Full circle. Who has the nicest or your favorite car on the team?
Oh,
that can't be yours.
I know. Getsy, they're like.
Still that is he still involved with that car company?
Yeah. So this guy's bringing in like exotic cars every 2 weeks. Yeah. So it's like, I don't even know if they like count as his, but he's bringing in nice stuff all the time. But he does. He's got the Ford GT, which is next level, I would say.
Right. If you had to pick two other guys in the NHL to play, and not on the Ducks, that you had to play 3-on-3 with and be on your team, who would your two line mates be?
No. Well, Connor, because he's so fast. And then I bring Jerry back, Zach Parise. He'd be fun.
Favorite teammate on the Devils? That's a tough one. Probably too many.
That is, yeah, probably Kyle Palmieri.
Palms.
Yeah.
One person said you can't say Palmieri. Should have left that one out. But
yeah. He probably still have a better beard than me within 2 or 3 days.
And when I played with him at 17 at the U.S. program, he literally had a man's beard, had the chest hair, and was like built like a truck even at 16. Here's a good one. What teammate has been the guy that you learned from the most and was the best leader?
Probably Zach.
Yeah.
He was a guy that again, he wasn't the most vocal guy in the room at the time, but he was he was the leader in that locker room, just simply based on his work ethic. So he was a guy that really drove the bus for us in Jersey at the time. Even with so many great players and great leaders on that team, he was the guy that I think everybody kind of looked to be a difference maker.
Our buddy Reamer from Windsor wants to know why he's your favorite. We used to, spend summers in Windsor training, and it was, myself, you, Harry Young, Jack Campbell, and, our workout group. We had, Welly, Cassian, Reichel, a bunch of guys in there. And you guys, we all, stayed in one house basically. He was the non-athlete there that kind of, tried to keep it all together for us. But
he probably just getting exposure in the driveway was the best part about Reamer.
Quickly finishing it up here, is just running pretty long. You do the Movember for the charity. Talk about that a little bit, and just the meaning behind it and bringing awareness to it.
So that, honestly, first of all, we weren't allowed to have social media or grow facial hair with Lou. So once that kind of moved on, I could grow a pretty good mustache. So Movember kind of just came about simply because of that, and it was something fun to do. And it kind of just took off. And, like I said, we had the big party in New Jersey, raised a lot of money, a lot of awareness. So I still do that with them, which is a lot of fun, something to look forward to every year.
And then, lastly here, yourself with Brandon Montour of the Buffalo Sabres, you guys are from the same hometown, but you guys are, in the process of setting up, a charity foundation for basically kids in the area to, play sports and have some of the costs, taken away so they don't have to pay for that. Talk a little bit about, what you guys are setting up for that in the future.
Yeah. So we actually went to the same high school. Brandon went with my brother, and then fortunate enough became teammates in Anaheim for a little while. So we're both from the area back home, and both kind of wanted to, use our platforms to start something. So we just teamed up, created the Henrique Montour Foundation. We were supposed to have our first golf tournament this summer in July back home. We'll wait and see if that will happen or not. But it was just a way that we can give back, I think. And, I think our goal is, just to help out in different areas. We don't necessarily have one specific area. Right now we're teamed up with the Arnold Anderson Fund, which helps pay for kids to play sports, pays their registration fees. Hockey is such an expensive sport to get into, but they help out, across all sports, which is something special for us, just to be able to help give back a little bit. And then down the road, we'll just try to be helping out, around the Brant County area in any way, shape, or form that we can.
That's awesome. I mean, like you said, you guys, have such a great platform and, are able to do this and help a lot of people. But, I appreciate you, taking your time here to come on and, have a little chat. I think a lot of people Kids will find this interesting, hearing your path, your story, and, kind of what it took, the ups and downs and some of the insights of, how you went from, your youth hockey all the way to the NHL and having the great career that you are. Hopefully all this stuff in the world going on gets cleared up here and you guys can get back to the season, get back playing. And, I'm looking forward to watching you. And again, I really appreciate it.
Thanks, bud.
All right,
man.
Fun. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Ciao.